Hello, my name is Gabriel Fairman. I'm the founder and CEO of bureauworks, and today I'm going to show a little bit of our generative language engine, how it works, why it's special, and the kinds of problems that it solves. Here you see our translation editor. I have our website translation undergoing. I'm clicking right now on segment 5, for instance. We're getting a machine translation feed into Brazilian Portuguese in blue. And we have a glossary term that's been identified. Translation has been added to the glossary. In this case, it's been lemmatized, but the inflected word has also been found in English. But let's go ahead and take a look. Typically, the translation experience, a translator would go in directly and they would start changing this so that it makes sense to them. So like, let's say, for instance, they would go here and they would substitute one word for another and again, and then finally they would confirm the segment, and that would store the segment in the translation memory. So that's, let's say, the old way to translate. You would type over essentially what's coming from either the machine translation or the translation memory. Now, with the generative language engine, what you can do is you can teach the engine exactly how you want things to look like. So let's say, for instance, we're teaching the engine, and notice that, for instance, it's picking up the idea automatically via AI that manages a verb. I'm going to save this. So yes. So notice now how it's tokenizing that. Let's clear the translations for now. And let's say, for instance, way instead of jeito in the Brazilian Portuguese, we're going to call this modo. Okay. These, and notice it's also picking up in this case, in this context, it's a noun. Let's save that. Okay, now we have two tokenized terms that have been added to the glossary, right? So we have a machine translation feed that reads gerencie traduções do seu jeito. Now we have also these three glossary terms that we have taught the engine in runtime. Now if we ask AI to translate this and we apply this translation, notice how it's tokenizing in Portuguese exactly what we just taught it, and it's also inflecting the sentence to make sure, the words in the sentence to make sure that they sound well. We have another feature here called translation smells that's detecting a potential grammatical error. So it's reading the translation is correct, but it could be improved. A more accurate translation would be gerencie suas traduções do seu jeito. Our translation smells is actually recommending the machine translation. Maybe it does sound better, but I prefer my way, and I'm going to go ahead and confirm it. But before I do, let me ask AI for a suggestion and see what another point of view says. And this is another way of expressing the same sentence. In this case, gerencie suas traduções do jeito que quiser. This is actually something I like. I like the suggestion. I think it makes sense given this context. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this. And essentially what's happening here, now if I click back, again, the translation smells is running. And when I confirm this segment, now I'm writing this segment to the translation memory. If we go back here, now it became a part of the knowledge base that we're working with, and it will be further leveraged as we go along, not only in the case of an identical or very similar sentence, but even in mildly similar contexts, we're going to leverage what we just taught it. So same example here. In this case, it's bureauworks is a cloud-based translation management system. Now let's say here it says baseado na tecnologia cloud. And that makes sense. I'm happy with this translation. It is detecting an inaccurate translation via AI because we taught the engine that the translation of empense at the end of the sentence is not accurate. So this that has been added here is not present in the source, and it's been flagged to us. So let's go ahead and remove it and see. Now no smells are found. I'm going to confirm this segment. Now let's look at another use case. Right here, this sentence has already been translated before, but maybe I'm not happy with the word amplitude. amplitude here, levels of flexibility, use case breadth. So let's change this to another term. And in this case, let's make breadth become scope synonymously. And let's save this. Now you can see in yellow, it's been identified to the glossary. Let's ask AI to translate it and apply it. And it's adapted the entire sentence so that it makes sense, even though we changed the noun considerably. It now has applied this terminology that we just taught it, and if we confirm it, it's going to save that in the translation memory. And here's another example. Over here, if I take a look at the machine translation, it got confused. It didn't understand that bureauworks was a proper name, but I've taught this to the AI. You can see it's tokenized here. If I ask AI to translate this, it's going to understand correctly. Let's apply the translation. And it understood correctly that bureauworks was a proper term. And it's detecting a problem in accuracy here, but it could be improved, blah, blah, blah. This is just a warning. Again, the smells aren't necessarily an indication that the translation is incorrect, but it's flagging possibilities that could require further looking into. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm this as well and move on to the next sentence. And that's so what's happening here is that the platform is learning dynamically, iteratively, continuously, and recursively, and in a fragmented way through my decisions. So whenever I add terms to the glossary, even if whatever I have stored in the translation memory or what's coming from the machine translation does not match this, and again, this is a good example. The machine translation uses the word motor for engine, but I taught I'm going to teach bureauworks that we want engine to become engenho, which is literally an engine. I'm going to save this. Now it's tokenized engine, and if I ask AI to translate this, it's going to take into account the machine translation in blue, the translation memory in green, and it's going to produce a third kind of translation, and it's flagging to me a natural phrasing. I'm happy with how it sounds, and I'm going to confirm this. So there are several different things that are happening at the same time. So I'm teaching the engine my way of expressing things. The engine is learning both at the term level and it's learning as well as through my writing at the sentence level. It's learning from different machine translation engines that we can set up in bureauworks, and it's learning from my static knowledge base called a translation memory. And what we're doing is we're meshing all of these different knowledge bases together into a single continuous dynamic feed. So that's one level. The second level is that we're able to run what we call translation smells, which detects, in this case, for instance, potential problems here, incorrect translation. It's detecting that something is missing here. So we're giving an added layer of peace of mind to translators so that they can feel at ease, or at least a little bit more at ease, less focused on errors, more focused on creativity and critical element around discourse, because the technology is doing so much more, is leveraging so much more as far as dynamic learning and error detection goes. So that's a quick summary of bureauworks. What I just showed you was the GLE, our generative language engine, as well as translation smells. I also glossed over the AI suggestions as well. And it's a very powerful tool. We've seen use cases where translators are able to double their output as well as notice an increase in quality. So it's not just producing more, but better. And we're very excited. This is just the beginning. We look forward to sharing this more and more with more enterprises and more of our translators so that we can make people's lives more productive, more creative, and hopefully better too. All right. Thank you so much.